Hey everybody, Mark from Northeast Bass Fishing. How you doing? I had a subscriber request for a video on tubes, and if you guys could see the amount of tubes I got sitting here, you'd think I was crazy if you don't already. But what I thought I'd just show you is the different types of tubes I like to throw, because there are a lot of different styles, and how I like to rig them up and how I fish them. So I'm just going to start with kind of some of the tubes that I pulled out here, and I'll just show them to you, and we'll just keep talking about it. Most of the time, when I'm throwing a tube, I'm using like a flipping tube. Now this is the old Strike King flipping tubes. My number one flipping tube is probably this 5-inch tube from Venom. That's the one I probably go to the most. I mean, I still like the Strike Kings a lot. This old man's Dragon tube I used to like to throw a lot. I don't know if they make these anymore. So if I'm flipping, that's usually the brands or the kinds that I'm throwing, those 4.5, 5-inch tubes. Anything smaller than that, I'm usually throwing with like an internal weighted jig head, like I'll show you guys. Some of the other smaller ones I'll use, let me see here. Not that these are super small, but if I'm going to be kind of dragging the bottom, I love these ISG Intimidator tubes. These are some of my favorites here. They've got great colors. These are very popular on the Great Lakes, and it's a great tube. I rig them up a lot. Let's see, the Mizmo tubes, if you can find them. I don't see these online as much as I used to, so I'm assuming they're still around. Maybe I'm just not looking in the right place. That's a great tube. And Strike King makes a smaller tube too. I've got boxes and boxes and boxes of tube. These Power Team tubes are great. These smaller ones for those internal weighted, tube heads. This is the Power Team lures. I think they're 3.5 inch, but these are great too. Lots of great colors. That's a great option. And then if you want to get more into if you're more into flipping tubes, there's one of my favorite flipping baits has always been like a tube craw. Like here's the 4-inch craw tube from Reins is a nice one. The old Lake Fork tackle craw tube was always one of my favorites. You guys have never seen those before. It's just your tube body with with the craw claws on it. Great flipping baits. There's lots of ones I like to use. The old Strike King. I'll show you some of these quick here. The old Strike King tube technology ones, which I've spoken about before. These are great. I still have tons of them. I mean, it's a discontinued bait, but I've got a lot. One of my go-tos, if I know I'm going to be flipping craw tubes, this will be in the boat, this box right here. And that's that old Strike King tube technology series. Bunch of those. Let's see. There's also tube creature baits too. Even the old Strike King, the Wild Fang, which was a great flipping bait. You got your tube body and you got your creature bait, little thingies on there, whatever you want to call them. Appendages, I suppose. But that's a great one. Let me see and try and show you some of these other kinds here. That's the Lake Fork box. That's all the Lake Fork tube craws there. I'll show you these without hopefully spilling everything out. Let's see. I think there's just some of the Strike King tube technology. They also had a lizard, which is a lizard, but it's a tube body. I don't have a lot of those. I don't really throw them that much. I don't think that was the greatest idea in the world, but I still caught fish with them. I think these are some more craw tubes. Yeah, this is a company called Kid Lizard. I don't know if they still exist. I always loved this color. When I lived in Jersey on my home lake, this was a great color. But there's that tube craw body, another brand, Kid Lizard. Like I said, I don't know if they make those. I'll do some research before I, when I do the description in the video, and if I find any of these older baits, I'll let you guys know if they're still around. There's also, for you guys who like throwing Yamamotos, I don't know if you want to classify this as a tube bait, the Ika, or Ika, whatever, however you call it. It does have that, that tube body kind of, but it's a solid plastic. It's a great flipping bait. It's a great flipping bait. I have a bunch of these that I'll throw every now and then. It's a great bed bait right there, bed fishing. But the Ika is, I guess you could say it's kind of a tube bait if you want. It's just solid. It doesn't have it's a solid plastic. It's great for flipping. They even had these. I don't know if they make these tube worm type worms that they used to make. So that's another option. You could check the Yamamoto website and see what they still make as far as those go. I don't know how many sizes of the Ika they still make. And this is another one that's kind of like the Ika. This is the Demiki Hydra. It's a similar bait. Smaller bait, but I've done well flipping with these. I just go with a smaller hook. I usually go to a 3/0 for these because it's a smaller body, but it's got that that tube-like body there at the end. And that's what this is all the hydras. I don't want to dump the box out on the table for you, but you guys get the idea. Really nice baits. If you never tried that one, it's a nice one. A nice option. So there are tons and tons, as you can see, of options to throw for a tube. Now, to make it simple, my main way to go is I like to flip a tube. When I throw a tube, probably, if I know I'm throwing a tube, most of the time I'm throwing, and actually this one here, this black, red, green flake, I don't know if I got another one here, of the Venom. This is my favorite one. I do very well with this. A 5-inch flipping tube. It's got that green and red flake in there. Like a black neon, but with the green flake too. And there might even be other flakes in there too. I just see the green and the red. But this 5-inch Venom flipping tube is probably my number one if I'm just flipping and pitching in heavy cover, docks, weeds, laydowns. And actually I'll show you before I move on. When I throw this, so I just Texas rig it. And then it's easy because you just go to the shank of the hook there, but let's just pop it through. You can imagine your line is tied on, bend it over, cinch it back through. Totally weedless. You've got your weight here and your line. Great flipping bait. One of the best. One of the best. I wish I still used it more because back in the day, this was my go-to. If I wasn't throwing a jig, I was throwing this black neon tube. And there's a lot of companies that have a black neon tube that I like. This one has that little extra flake in it that I seem to do better with. But back in the day, before Greenwood Lake was pretty good, this was the bait I used to love there. But that's my go-to, flipping bait. Every now and then, I'll bring some of the old Denny Brower flipping tubes, because there's a lot of great colors of those. That blue one was always great. Another way that I like to throw a tube, if I'm going to drag the bottom, as I said, these Intimidators are the ones I usually go to, or the Mizmos. They're 4-inch tubes, and I'll use one of these. Let's see. Let me see what sizes I got here. I'll use the 3/16 because it's a little smaller head. These are those Bite Me heads. And what I like about them is they have that rattle. It's glued on there. Now, if you throw these all day, a lot of times that rattle's going to, if you're getting a lot of bites, you're banging a lot of rocks. These rattles might come off, but no big deal. You still got the tube head, the jig head. And you can always stick a rattle into a tube and throw some cotton in there and it won't get out. But I like these because they've got that rattle. Gives me a little bit of a rattle. And that's a smaller one. That's a 3/16. But let's say I'm going to use, let's see. Now this one here is a Bite Me tube. This is a 3/4 ounce. This is a big one. This doesn't have a rattle. You don't need a rattle. I like to have one. And this is that big, a big bulky head, so it gives it almost like, it looks like a goby. So that the tube of the head inside the tube, kind of makes it, grow and look bigger, so it looks like it's the head of a fish there. When you put that big tube head in there. Like here's a 1/2 ounce with a rattle. I'll show it to you with the 1/2 ounce is a little bigger. So if I'm going to throw this intimidator, this 4-inch intimidator, I'm going to put my put the pad down here because this is covered with salt. I don't want it all over the table. But here's those intimidator tubes. It's a 4-inch tube. This color is Great Lakes Craw. Great Lakes Craw color. Looks like there's some gold flake in there, some black flake. Looks like it's either a watermelon or a green pumpkin. But these tubes are excellent. And when you're going to take that internal tube, I'm trying to show you this here with the salt all over the table. I always just kind of pull the legs down. I don't want to tear them off. And that tube head is just going to, jig head's just going to fit right into the tube. Now, a lot of times I'll just take some scent and put it on there because then it just slides in better, but it shouldn't be too, if I'm having trouble with it, I'm just going to use the smaller one, which I'm going to do. So I don't want to make a mess here. I'll just use this 3/16 ounce. You get the same thing. Slides right into the tube. You just work the tube down there. Your hook is going to always be exposed. And then when you get it down as far as it'll go into the tube, you find where that line tie is, and you just pop it through. If I can find it. There it is right there. So you're going to pop that tie through. Now when you're using a big tube with a smaller one hook like this, it's a little tougher, but you'll get the hang of it. You just pop that through, tie it on, and drag it. This is for dragging. If I'm going to fish like the river, or I'm going to drag deep rocks, I'm going to throw that with that internal, and I can hear that rattle in there. I've got that internal tube head. My hook is exposed. Now you will hang up, but that's okay because you got the bait down where the fish are. So you might lose a few tubes or might get hung up, but you got to throw it around the rocks if you want to get bit. And just drag it around. Just drag it around. You could use a 4-aught like this. I'll pop this out if I can get it out. That's why you use the scent. It makes it come out easier. So I want to use this tube. Another one here. Actually, when you rough these up, it's actually a little better for them. So let's say I wanted to use a different tube here. It's a little smaller. Now these are 4-inchers. I don't know if I have any 3.5s out. But like, if you were going to throw like these bitsy tubes, let's say. Now these are really finessey. Now this is only, I think they're only about 2.75 inches. These are 2.7. You could use that eternal head on these. But you can see how much smaller. This is a really good finesse tube, these Strike King bitsy tubes. You could use that in there. That would probably fit, but to me it's too bulky. What I do with these is I'll just take a Ned and just use a Ned head. Just pop it on the Ned, go through the body, pop it out, and almost like you're just fishing a Ned, but it's a tube. So if you want to go real finessey, those 2.75 inch, Strike King bitsy tubes, just put it on a Ned. I wouldn't go with one of these internal ones. To me, it's just too bulky. I think these are much better thrown on like a Ned head, some kind of mushroom head that you like to use. And then you can just drag it along the bottom like you're throwing a Ned. Throw them something different. When everybody else is throwing a Ned, if you go to the tube, might get some bites that the other guys aren't getting. So that's kind of my riggings. I'll use the internal tube when I'm dragging the bottom, the internal tube head, one of these bite me heads. If I'm going to fish a little deeper, I'll use these 3/4 ouncers, or where's that 1/2 ounce that I had out? Or that 1/2 ounce. A lot of times I'm using a 1/4 or a 3/8. Sometimes if I know I'm going to be fishing even deeper, I might throw that 1/2 ounce. It all depends on how deep the water is that I'm going to be dragging around a tube. I haven't really dragged a tube much in the last couple years. I've done it here and there. I should do it more on the river. I'd probably do well with it. fish other things. I think kind of I've thrown a Ned more, or you know, or a football head jig. What I did do this year, if you guys go check back some of the, you know, some of those summer videos, that the biggest fish I caught last summer was when I was flipping a tube on weeds, just flipping, and I don't think it was this black neon. I think it was more of a green pumpkin, you know, something like these are the Chad Choice ones. Something like, I think it might have been more of a green pumpkin type bait, but colors are relevant. There's, as you can see, there's a million colors. Now, as far as the tube craws go, these I'm just going to Texas rig. Just like I do. That 4/0 hook might be a little big for this tube. That's not too bad. It's pretty good. Usually 4/0 I go. I don't go to 5/0. 3/0 or 4/0. Just Texas rig that tube craw. Flip and pitch it just like you're doing, like you're throwing one of the Venoms, the Strike Kings, whatever it is you're throwing. The tube craw is a great flipping bait. Great flipping bait. If you haven't tried it, I recommend you do. Let me show you the, since these are a little smaller tubes. But this is that power team. Since this is a little smaller, this isn't a 4-inch. I think these are 3.5, as I said before. This will probably fit in there very well. And these are so slimy with that. I mean, you open the box of a power team, man, the whole room smells like a pizza place in 2 seconds. And then just pop that through there. Just pop that line tie, and you're good to go. Now these are, I would say, are more finesse-y than those bigger ones, but it's still the same idea. Now I would probably, now the way I rig that, I would rig that the other way. I would prefer to have that chartreuse on the bottom and have that green pumpkin on the top. So that's how I would do it. But there you go. I mean, that's a really good setup right there for dragging the bottom for bass. 3.5-inch tube, 3/16 ounce weight with a rattle. I don't know if you guys can hear that, how well you can be able to hear that over the mic, but it's great. It's a great setup, and these really do a nice glide when they go to the bottom. They don't just go poof, straight down. They'll glide down nice. And a lot of times, before I really, you know, for you guys who bedfish, you know, I'll go out and bedfish sometimes in the spring. I used to always use just a white tube. If I have any white ones here other than the man's one. I mean, I've caught fish off beds on these 5-inch tubes, just flipping them on beds. But usually, I mean, back in the day, I would just throw a white tube on beds with a very light weight like this 3/16 ounce or even less. Because it would glide onto the bed, and the smallies especially would hammer it. But on the bed, smallies will hammer pretty much anything you throw on there. But now I kind of, if I am going to sight fish, it's usually with a Ned or a drop shot. But there you go. That's your internal, you know, you bite me. Any brand you guys want to use. I just have mostly these Bite Me Tackle Incorporated. I'm sure they're still out there. If not, there's plenty of other people who make Strike King makes tube heads. I have some tungsten ones from Woo Tungsten. So there's lots of options. Now let's see. Is there any other? Now Venom. If you want to just talk about Venom for a minute, they have so many different styles. Like this is their Salt Series style. This is the Salt Series style. They have so many different, you know, sizes and colors. This is what they call their Goby series. Now some of these might be older. Maybe they don't have them anymore. This is their Bad Blood series. They just have so many different types of tubes. But as I said, any brand you like. There's ones I like for flipping. My number one's the Venom. If I'm flipping tubes, I'll probably throw that tube craw a lot. I'll bring out that old Strike King Wild Fang, the old Strike King craw tube. Let's see. Try and see what else we got here. Some of the newer tubes I have. Flipping tubes. This is the Dry Creek Dry Creek's, their maxi tube. It's a 5-inch tube, which I like. They have a lot of cool colors. Let's just show you a few of those. It's their 5-inch tube. It's a big tube. But they have some really cool colors that I like. This black neon with that, like that yellow inside is really cool, especially for dirty water. That's a really cool one. I mean, some great colors. So, I mean, there was a time when whenever I saw a 5-inch tube, I don't care who made it, I would get it and just try it out. And I really haven't found a tube that I didn't like, to be honest with you. As far as some other brands of some Finesse tubes, I mean, maybe one of the oldest, most popular brands of tubes was the Gitzit. This is a box of Gitzits here. And I'll just kind of try to show this to you without, as I said, without dumping them all over. This was like, if I was sight fishing, this was kind of the box I would use. These, you know, white with that blue flake on it. It's like, I don't even know what you want to call that color. It was probably used to be white, but it's probably faded a little bit. But any of these, like, you know, smoke type colors with the blue, these were my bed fishing baits back in the day. But just here's some more Gitzits that are very finessey. So if you're looking for that finesse bite on a tube, I mean, this Gitzit would be perfect if you wanted to do, it's much like that Strike King. If you wanted to just put it on a net head, would probably be the best way to throw it. Unless you want to use, if you've got an 1/8 ounce tube head, and you don't have to use the rattle. I just prefer it. But kind of with the, you know, the whole Ned head thing, it just makes it so much easier. And it really shows the fish something different. It's a great finesse way to throw your tube baits. That's just a Gitzit, 3-inch Gitzit. But there's the Gitzit, and I can remember back in the day getting some of these Gitzits and they were like pre-rigged. I don't know if I still have the pre-rigged one. I think the lead inside them after a few years used to get a little gnarly. But lots of cool colors. So this is more my Finesse tube box here. Let's see what else we got. Here's some Strike King flipping tubes. Show you guys that quick. Some different colors. I always liked this guy right here. That was always a good one. That orange tail, some of that chartreuse tail. That black neon with the chartreuse tail was always a good one. But really, if you got a green pumpkin and a black neon, you probably got all you need. But I can't really think of any other brands or types I can show you that I haven't shown you already. Like I said, with the 5-inch tube, that Venom tube, flipping and pitching it just like a jig, just like a worm. You know, flipping stick, 20-pound line, maybe you know, a 3/8 half-ounce sinker, flipping it around heavy cover. That 5-inch tube is a great flipping bait. The 4-inch, the 3.5-inch, they work great with these internal heads. As I said, you can use the Bite Me ones, you could use the whatever brand you like. As I said, Strike King makes them. There's that 1/2 ounce with that, and I like the rattle. You don't have to use the rattle. I like the rattle. Gives it a little extra when it's bouncing around those rocks. Attract the fish maybe a little better. As I said, you use these a lot. That rattle tends to fall out of there after a while, just because you're banging it around so much. Here's some here. I don't know who makes these. 2K jigs. But that's a big, that's a 3/8 ounce size, and that's one that doesn't have, oh, I never even opened it. That's a 3/8, and it's kind of a little bit of a different shape. But that's a 3/8 ounce size without a rattle. Just slide it up in there. Pop your line tie out. You're ready to go. So any brand you guys want. You can get tungsten ones. You can get, you know, lead ones. Whatever. And then there's the Craw tubes. Craw tubes are great flipping options. You know, the lake forks are nice. These Reins ones are very nice. I haven't really used the Reins ones that much. Ooh. It's a good smell though. But just a little different setup, but perfect for flipping. Perfect for flipping. I showed you the Daniki Hydras, the Ikas from Ikas from Yamamoto, however you say it. All good options, all good options. And when I'm throwing these, I'm just dragging them along the bottom, throwing them out. And usually I'm throwing these on a spinning setup. I've tried it with the casting setup. I just like it better with a spinning setup when I'm throwing these internal hooked ones, even if it's a 3/8 ounce or a 1/2 ounce bait. I just like the feel of it better for dragging it. You could use casting if you prefer that. No problem. But when I'm kind of dragging them with these internal hooks, internal lead heads, I prefer to put them on like a spinning. If I know it's heavy cover, I'll probably have like 10-pound fluoro, maybe 12, probably 10. I don't go much lighter than that because I know I'm going to be pulling this around rocks. But when I'm gonna flip and pitch a tube, it's going to be with, you know, all my flipping gear, flipping stick, 20-pound fluoro, heavy weight, depending on the cover. I'm looking forward to trying these. Maybe if you guys saw my other video on that Ozark rig, I want to see how that might work on this. I don't know, just with the size of the tube, the body, I don't know if that Ozark rig would work, but it might. There's only one way to find out, to give it a try. So that might be an option for these. But a tube is a great bait. I wish I still threw a tube more than just doing this video makes me say, Mark, you got to get that back into the lineup more. And I did throw it a lot this summer, and I did catch some good fish on it, so that was nice to see. But I think I've kind of shown you all the different types I've got here. I mean, there's even more boxes here on the floor. I don't want to go too crazy. But these are like the 3.5-inch Strike King tubes that I use the internal hooks on. It's a great tube. Here's some old school tubes. Guys who remember the company Riverside, they made a tube. This is the Riverside tube, which I think became Yum, but I'm not sure. That's the old Riverside tube, which that color was great right there. That's smoke red. Used to catch some nice ones on that. This guy right here. But Riverside as a company, I think became Yum, but I don't remember for sure. You guys out there might know better than me. Let's see. I believe these are more Strike Kings. Yeah, they look like it. These look like Strike King tubes to me. These are the smaller ones. They're not the 4 or 5 inch ones. I think these are like 3.5, 3 and 3.75 inches, bigger ones. Or not bigger ones, but not the tiny ones. This is an old Strike King kit I bought years ago, or somebody bought me for Christmas. I don't remember. This is the old coffee tubes, which I think they still make. This has a combination of the smaller tubes that I use the internal hook for, and the bigger tubes like the black neon that I use for flipping. Sometimes if I go flipping, I bring this box with me. If I know if I'm going to throw tubes, because I can throw either kind. If I want to drag the bottom, I've got the smaller ones, and if I want to flip, I've got the bigger ones. So this box is pretty good. And they used to have these like two-tone ones, colors, which I liked. I don't know what tube series that Strike King is still making. I'm not sure. But as you can see, I think I'm pretty well stocked up with tubes. I don't remember the last time I bought a new bag of tubes. If I did, the newest tubes I have are probably these. Probably these guys right here. And as I said, if I was going to go out and drag, I'd probably throw these. If I was going to flip and pitch, I'd throw that Venom. And if I was going to throw like a Craw tube, I'm sure I'd have the old Strike King out on the boat, or the Lake Fork. That's the wild thing. But this was always my favorite, the green pumpkin Strike King tube technology Craw tube. Put a little orange on those claws and go flipping. Great bait. Makes me want to go fishing. But that's it, guys. That's it. That's kind of what I do, what I use when I throw a tube, how I rig them up. It's pretty simple. I'm either using that internal hook. I'm either, you know, EWG hook, flipping and pitching. Or I'm throwing the really finesse ones here. These small, like these Strike Kings, these Gitzit tubes, on a Ned. That's pretty much the way if I'm throwing a tube, that's how I'm doing it. So that's it. If there's anything I forgot and you want to know, you let me know. But I think I covered everything, everything that I wanted to in this. But with so many baits, I was like going, wow, I'm just taking box after box off of the shelf and going, wow, this video could be 2 hours long. And I don't know, you guys will be falling asleep after 15 minutes if you haven't already. But any questions on any of the baits, let me know. Any of these tubes that I like to throw, if they're still available, I know the Venoms are. I know the Intimidators are. I know Strike King has tubes. I know the Lake Fork tube Craw is still available. I'll put some links on there if you guys are interested in picking them up if you don't have them already. And if there's something that you like to do that I missed, let me know. Let's share some information. That'd be great. But I love tube fishing. It's a great bait. I've put a lot of fish over the years on them. I have at least gotten more into flipping them again, which is a good thing. Not just throwing a jig all the time, which is not a bad thing. But it's a great flipping bait. It's a great flipping bait. And it's a good finesse bait, too. And if those fish are holding on the bottom, you know, it's a good way to get bites. It's a good way to get bites. I don't know, you know, if a tube is something that's as popular as it used to be. I don't hear about people throwing it as much as they used to. I know that, you know, back when I started bass fishing, when I started flipping tubes, I couldn't do it enough. It was like my favorite. I wasn't even jig fishing anymore. I was just flipping tubes all the time because it was working so well. But it's a great bait. It's a great bait. And lots of great brands out there and styles and colors and all that good stuff. So, as I said, any questions, let me know. Any questions, let me know. If I forgot anything, like I said, add it to the comments. I love when you guys give me comments. That's how, you know, Melvin said, hey, Mark, how about a video on tubes? I just started fishing tubes, and that gives me good motivation and ideas on what videos to do, which you guys want to see, so it's great. So once again, thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate the support the channel gets, all the likes and the sharing you guys are doing, and the subscriber numbers going up. It's all great stuff, so I really appreciate it. So I will see you guys soon on YouTube. Mark out.